Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.com, and I wanted to talk today about the recent or the upcoming Democratic National Convention. One of the things that we've seen recently is this obsession with the Democratic Party when it comes to voting rights and voter ID laws and things that most of us disagree with. We have a problem with what the Republicans are doing in this arena. But I find it very ironic and very interesting that the only time you hear the Democratic Party directly reference African Americans is in the context of voter ID laws. And my initial reaction to that is, well, of course they would do that because they want black people to come out and vote for them. But when you want them to mention African Americans in the context of urban violence, mass incarceration, black unemployment, unequal educational systems, the Democrats suddenly get amnesia. So to really try to understand some of this issue, I wanted to bring in noted political science expert Dr. Wilmer Leon. He's a professor at Howard University. He's also the host of Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon. And the show comes on Saturdays from 11 to 2, and the channel is, Dr. Leon?
128.
128.
128.
Sirius XM 128, The Power. So, Dr. Leon, how are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I am great. And yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good.
So, can you help me understand some of this? Am I being just too simplistic? I mean, what's going on in terms of democratic thinking when it comes to this obsession with voter ID laws as it pertains to African Americans? Am I crazy, or is there sort of a bias that they have where they're willing to talk about this issue but not willing to talk about all the other issues that we bring to the table?
Well, no, you're not being crazy, nor are you being simplistic. I think it's important, first of all, to understand that neither you nor I are trying to minimize the significance of this voter ID discussion. It is incredibly, incredibly important, not only as it relates to the African American vote and the Latino vote, as well as elderly individuals, because those are the demographics that are going to be most directly impacted by this. But it's a direct frontal assault on our democracy. So the Republicans who want to wrap themselves in a flag and want to claim so much to love this country and what it stands for are attacking its very core, which is one person, one vote. So we both clearly understand that. Your point, as I understand it, is why is it that the Democratic Party is now so interested in this from the perspective of dilution of the African American vote, when there are so many other issues that are impacting our community that they won't pick up and take the mantle for. And a lot of that, I think, very simply has to do with parties operate in what they perceive to be their best interest. And with an understanding that voter turnout in 2012 is going to be lower than voter turnout in 2008, every vote matters. And so it is in the interest of it is in the immediate interest of the Republican Party to address this issue so that their Democratic voters won't be turned away at the polls. And as they're looking at a smaller sample size or voter population, every vote is going to count. It is expected that President Obama will win, but the margins are going to be much, much narrower than they were in 2008. And so the Republicans figure if they can chip away at these margins, every little bit's going to matter, and they could steal an election in 2012 the way they stole it in 2000 in Florida and the way they stole it in 2004 in Ohio.
So, how should African Americans feel when the Democratic Party has refused to, for example, put urban violence as one of its leading platform issues, when it's refused to address black unemployment directly or racial inequality? But yet, when it comes to voter ID laws, every speech is vote, vote, vote. Dr. King fought for this. Dr. King died for this. Power to the people. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the issues that matter to us, they say, oh, yeah. We don't really have time for that right now. How do you think African Americans should feel about that?
Well, on the one hand, we should be very much disturbed by this. But on the other hand, or as a complement to that, instead of looking outside at the party and blaming the party, I think a lot of this we have to look internally and ask ourselves, why aren't we doing as Roosevelt said in 36, and I love this quote, as Roosevelt said to A. Philip Randolph in 36, make me do it. Why aren't we, as a political constituency, demanding from the party that we get the things that we deem to be relevant and necessary for our interests? And so I have to look at us, and we have to ask ourselves, why are we allowing the party to ignore our interests instead of going out and ensuring that we extract from the process the policies that we need in order for our interests to be addressed? Part of that, too, I think we have to look at our leadership, and we have to look at the traditional organizations that we have turned to. And one of the things I found very interesting very recently, there was a coalition of Hispanic political organizations that came together. I think it was about somewhere between like 9 and 14 or 15 organizations that came together and issued a statement or a list of demands that the Hispanic community is looking for the Democratic Party to address. It's a coalition of a number of different Hispanic organizations speaking in unison. My question is, why is it that the NAACP, Rainbow Push, Urban League, and Reverend Sharpton's organization, National, and the Nation of Islam, why is it that these organizations continue to operate independently? Why is it that they cannot come together as different groups, work cohesively, and put together an agenda, put together a statement, put together a plan? We seem to be, one of the few interest groups or one of the few elements within the political community that continues to operate or has our organizations continue to operate disparately as opposed to in unison.
That's very interesting that you say that, and I agree with you 100%. I think that one of the things that really needs to happen within the black community, in my opinion, is that we need to either take out or go around these political warlords who have been put in place to control the African-American community. These individuals who have been assigned the responsibility of bringing the Obama administration's agenda to black America, as opposed to bringing black America's agenda to the Obama administration. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm not afraid to say Al Sharpton needs to be checked in terms of what he's really doing to impede the ability of African Americans to come together to fight for the issues that they want. And the thing is that, but he's not impeding it entirely. I mean, he is holding the marches and the rallies, and many of these rallies, unfortunately, don't seem to accomplish a whole lot. But he's not taking the fight to the Obama administration. To some extent, he and a few other figureheads, primarily on MSNBC, are pretty much paid employees of the Obama administration. They're reaping direct financial rewards for speaking a party line. Now, I think that's okay, because there are other surrogates that President Obama has out here who are speaking, on behalf of the administration. No problem with that. But if that's your job, then that's what you need to be. Don't try to sort of hold two seats at one time. Like Cory Booker is not, going around and saying, I am a black leader and I control a significant percentage of the black population, and yet I'm still a surrogate for Obama. He's pretty much a surrogate for Obama, and he's also the mayor of Newark, and that's kind of it. He's not sort of trying to, play both sides of the fence. Because we have to understand that sometimes our interests are not going to be in alignment with the Obama administration's interests. Their interest is very simple. It's to do some stuff, do as much as they can, but to also take credit for as much as they can without actually doing anything, and also convincing their constituents to not ask for very much. You lower expectations, right? If the expectations of your constituents are low, then you don't have to deliver very much for them to walk around and say that they love you. So I think that when you look at what's happening right now in 2012 versus what happened in '08, you obviously see a significant decline in the amount of energy and momentum and confidence in the Obama administration. And I don't think it's a matter of trying to undermine the ability of Obama to be reelected. But my point is that should he be reelected, which I certainly hope that he is, we need to make sure that his reelection means something for us. Right now, his reelection means nothing for us if we get another 4 years like the last 4 years. But if he gets elected and we go in there and we fight for our interests, like we speak up about the violence issue, speak up about black unemployment, and get them to act and walk around these little warlords that have been planted in our communities, then I think that we can have a presidency that is worthwhile. We can have a black president that represents black interests, not just a black president that represents symbolism. So, Dr. Leon, I'll let you get the last word in terms of, what your recommendation is in terms of how we should think about this election and think about what black empowerment really means in the context of 2012.
Well, your point about the marches is very, very well put. I think it's important to understand in the 60s, the marches were part of a much larger strategy. The marches were tied to an agenda. The marches were tied to a plan. There were basically three things that the civil rights movement, three prongs of attack that the civil rights movement engaged in: the streets, the courts, and the legislature. And marches were part of the street strategy as they supported the push in the legislature, as well as they worked through the NAACP Legal Offense Fund to challenge discrimination in the courts. Now, to a great degree, the marches aren't tied to a larger strategy. The marches are a be-all and end-all of themselves. And so when the march is over, there's no other strategy to take the momentum that was generated from the march and turn it into political policy outcome. And I say this to you, I say it on my show all the time. Our politics has to mature. We have to move away from the politics of personality, whether that is leadership within our organizations. We have to move away from the politics of personality and start to understand the dynamics and the importance of the politics of policy. And so whether Reverend Sharpton is the leader of National Action Network or whoever the next leader of National Action Network is, whether Reverend Jackson is the leader of Rainbow Push or whoever follows Reverend Jackson, the individuals will not matter as much as the agenda of the organization. If I could take a second, and I want to read a quote from Ossie Davis, the great actor and activist. He was the first speaker. He was the first keynote speaker at the first Congressional Black Caucus dinner. And the title of his speech was, "It's not the man, it's the plan." And this is a brief paragraph in his closing remark. He says, "But all I'm saying to the world, all I'm saying to that cadre of black leadership is that we want a plan. We want a plan so simple, so easy to remember that we carry it in our heads so that if the storm of oppression should wipe us out, all but one family, and that family is crouching somewhere in the dark, one brother would reach out to another and say, 'Hey man, what's the plan?'"
I love it.
That's the answer to your question right there.
All right.
And we don't have to go too far back for this. All we have to do is go back to the 70s and the Indianapolis meeting that took place back in the 70s, where the plan was the Gary Conference, where the plan was articulated, where those groups did come together. And one has to ask, what happened to the momentum from the Gary Conference? That's what we need to go back to.
Well, I love it, and I agree with you. I think that having a plan is obviously very important. I think that people should be reminded that you are coming in and speaking on this as a political science expert and also as a person who's objective. You're not trying to undermine President Obama.
No.
You're just trying to educate the public. And so
I'm not a political operative. I'm a political scientist.
There you go. I love it. I love it. And you are the man with the plan. So I'm gonna reach out to you pretty soon because I want to hear what your idea of a plan is as well, because I think that it's up to all of us to start talking about what we really want from the Obama administration or from any president. The things that immediately come to mind for me are unemployment, violence, mass incarceration, educational inequality. I think those 4 areas are incredibly important. And
those are...
Oh, go ahead.
No, I say all you got to do, Google the Gary Convention, because all of that, and that's what's so ironic, are a lot of the same themes and issues that they were talking about in the 70s. The plan is there. It's already been written. All we have to do is pull it off the shelf, dust it off, and update it with relevant current data. But the issues haven't changed.
All right. Well, let's do that. I encourage everybody watching to go look up the Gary Conference, and also to think about what you want from your political leadership, and understand that President Obama, he's like a waiter in a restaurant. If you don't order anything, then you won't get fed. So let's order something this time, and not just be happy having a black president. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Leon. I truly appreciate it.
Garçon. More water, please.
Hey, don't call the first black president boy. Come on now, man. Come on now. Well, anyway. Well, everybody, this is Dr. Wilmer Leon. He is a noted political scientist. He is a professor at Howard University. He's also the host of Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon, which comes on Sirius XM The Power, channel 128. On Saturdays from 11 to 2, and his Facebook page is facebook.com/Dr. Leon's Prescription. And I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and thank you for checking us out. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.